Hello there, welcome. You're watching RT International. Now we start with our breaking news story, the deadly standoff in Ukraine that has now spread to the country's south. There have been dozens of fatalities and scores of injured people in the port city of Odessa, which has been relatively peaceful following February's coup in Kiev. These pictures we received from a local TV station in the area, the trade unions building here, where most of the supporters of greater autonomy have been forced out after trying to seek shelter there. However, the standoff is still continuing with a group of about 50 anti-Kiev protesters trapped on the roof. A 1,000-strong mob had besieged the building. More than 30 people have been killed, according to police. Some of the victims died after jumping out of the windows. That is according to eyewitnesses. Others choked to death on smoke after the building was set on fire. Others also were shot. Now, scores of injured people have been lying on the streets crying for help, and at the same time, masked men in black clothes have been seen threatening people on the streets with machine guns. The attackers are mostly football ultras, we are told, joined by members of far-right groups. Well, Mark Sloboda, senior lecturer for the international relations at Moscow State University, joins me now. Mark, what we're seeing here is a serious escalation, isn't it, and a very disturbing one.
Yes, this is the greatest number of fatalities that we have seen in this crisis since the riots on February 20th and 21st.
And briefly take us through what happened today and the offence that led up to all these deaths.
Yeah, there has been a condition of dueling political militias in Odessa for several months now, but there hasn't been any fatalities as of yet. We know that several hundred ultranationalists were bussed into Odessa. We have this from the local police chief and from the right sector themselves. They attacked a anti-putsch protest camp that was in the center of the city. The self-defense forces of the protest camp certainly fought back. They were using makeshift weapons, chains, bats, reportedly some small arms fire, Molotov cocktails, stones on both sides. We know that regular people on both sides were participating. We saw pensioners throwing pavement stones and hitting people with clubs, which is an absolute Balkan, former Yugoslavia level of neighbor-on-neighbor violence. At one point, when a fire truck came on the scene, the pro-putsch mob, they took control of the fire brigade truck, beating the driver, and then tried to use the fire brigade truck to ram the self-defense lines of the anti-putsch protesters and crush them. Then the anti-putsch protesters eventually retreated from the onslaught inside the trade union building. The pro-putsch protesters, the ultranationalists, they set the building on fire, and then at least 30-some people died from smoke inhalation or burning. Others jumped out of the windows. 8 people died jumping out of the windows. Of those that survived, either escaping the building or jumping out of the windows, some of them were then made to crawl, we have video of this, made to crawl on their hands and knees, despite suffering from burns, through a gauntlet, a corridor of shame by these ultranationalists who were then beating them. And we have video of this.
We have, I'll just jump in there because we do have an eyewitness account, somebody who is near that building when it was attacked. We can just listen now to what he says.
One policeman died after being injured by right sector radicals who came today to Odessa. There were over 1,000 of them. They wanted to hold a rally here for United Ukraine and march towards our tent camp. We knew beforehand of this provocation, so some of our brigades met them as they were making their way to us. That's when these ultra-radicals began throwing Molotov cocktails, rocks, and started to fight with our guys. But our teams were able to fend them off and stop them. Seeing all their attempts were fruitless, they opened gunfire. That's how one of our guys and a policeman were killed. These radicals were trying to get to our Orthodox outpost, where many people come to pray for the Berkut soldiers who lost their lives on Maidan. We're ready to fight till the end.
we're ready to fight to the end. I mean, we've heard before, haven't we? Even a few weeks ago, Russian officials were warning this country's on the brink of civil war. Is this what you see?
Yeah, I mean, Russia's been warning about this not just for the last few weeks, but back months now, when there was an attempt to try to make the Ukraine make a political decision between East and West with first the association agreement, then the regime that took power through the mob protest on February 21st and 22nd. Russia has been warning that this level of identity of interethnic violence was inevitable, and this is the results we've seen.
People and witnesses that we've spoken to have singled out the right sector and their involvement in today's massacre, I suppose, if you want to call it that. How much control does the government in Kiev have over the right sector, if any at all?
That's a question. At various times in the crisis, they have shown that they have no control over the right sector. There was a truce that was broken in the the 19th, 20th of February by the right sector. The February 21st agreement was broken by February 22nd on the right sector. And we have seen repeated riots in Kiev as the right sector and other ultranationalists marched on the Rada, trying to force further and further right policies on this regime.
And so, just briefly, because we're running out of time on this one, but we will get back to you shortly, what do you expect will happen next? Do you expect to see further violence in other areas of eastern Ukraine and, of course, now South Ukraine?
Yeah, we've already got reports of further encroachments in Kramatorsk and Slavyansk this night. And Dmitry Yurosh, the leader of the right sector, has just announced that he will personally go to Slavyansk to oversee the final stages of the operation, as he put it.
OK, Mark, we'll leave it there, but we will come back to you shortly.